Oilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Friday Night with Matt Goodwin, right here on GB News, the People's Channel, where I speak up for you, the forgotten majority. Coming up on tonight's show. After years of speculation and scandal, bombshell royal news tonight as Prince Andrew agrees to give up his royal titles. Could further revelations about the disgraced Duke be just around the corner? We're going to be bringing you live reaction tonight throughout the evening. And over in America, President Trump concludes crunch peace talks with Ukraine's President Zelensky just after meeting Russia's Vladimir Putin. Could an end to the 3-year conflict be closer than ever before? We will be going over stateside to speak to Bev Turner live from Washington, D.C. tonight. And back in Britain, accusations of anti-Semitism have erupted once again as Israeli football fans are banned from attending a fixture against Aston Villa in our second city, no less. So does Britain now have no-go zones for the Jewish community? And in our last segment, Mad in Conversation, I'm going to be speaking to the father of a grooming gang survivor as the upcoming inquiry faces growing criticism before it's even begun. That's Friday Night with me, Matt Goodwin, starts right now. Now I'll also be joined tonight by my panel, acting deputy comment editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and political commentator Kai Wilshaw. As ever, I want to hear your views tonight at gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can reach us on X at GBNews. But now it's time for the News Bulletin with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening to you. The breaking news: Prince Andrew is giving up all his royal titles and honours, including the Duke of York. Andrew will put all his titles in abeyance and will give up his position of Knight of the Garter after coming under huge pressure from the King, with their relationship understood to be at a tipping point. Although he will remain a prince, having been born the son of the late Queen. Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah, Duchess of York, will follow suit. She will simply be known as Sarah Ferguson. The development follows a string of new scandals concerning his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged relationship with a Chinese spy. In a statement, Prince Andrew said continued accusations distract from the work of the royal family, but he says he will continue to vigorously deny any wrongdoing. Donald Trump is hosting Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House to discuss the war in Ukraine. The Ukrainian leader is hoping to secure long-range missiles that can strike deep into Russian territory. Earlier, the US president signalled he might be willing to grant the request, although cast doubt on that. Having spoken to Vladimir Putin yesterday, he has said this evening, hopefully they won't need it. Hopefully Ukraine will be able to get the war over without thinking about tomahawks.
We'll be talking about what took place yesterday with my phone call with President Putin. And I think that things are coming along pretty well. And we'd like to see if we could finish it, end it. We want it ended. So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended. So.
Now, the government says it's doing everything in its power to overturn a ban on Israeli fans attending a match in Birmingham. Police and council's official banned Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety concerns after classifying the game as high risk, citing violence that occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam in November. Downing Street says it is working with police and exploring what additional resources may be required, with the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, saying the government wants to ensure all fans can attend the game safely. The Prime Minister, along with the leaders of the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, have called for the ban to be overturned. Palestine Action will be allowed to challenge its ban under terrorism laws. The government's failed in its attempt to block a legal appeal brought by the group's co-founder, Huda Amouri, who now can take the case to the High Court. The Home Office ban, which came into force in July, makes membership of or support for the Direct Action Group a criminal offence. Manchester Arena bomb maker Hashim Abedi has pleaded not guilty to the attempted murder of 3 prison officers. It follows an attack at HMP Franklin in County Durham in April. The Old Bailey heard the alleged offences had a terrorist motivation. Abedi serving a 22-year sentence for helping his brother murder 22 people at an Ariana Grande concert in 2017. And Ofcom says the BBC breached the broadcasting code over its failure to say that a narrator of a Gaza documentary was the son of a Hamas official. An investigation by the watchdog found Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, the programme was materially misleading. Ofcom has ordered the BBC to broadcast a prime-time statement about its conclusions. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 8.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Friday Night with me, Matt Goodwin, on GB News. Now, Prince Andrew has tonight announced he will give up all of his royal titles in a seismic moment for Britain's monarchy. And it follows a string of scandals, including his long-standing association with Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged involvement in the Chinese spy scandal. It's understood that he will put all of his titles in abeyance, having come under huge pressure from the King. For clarity and in guidance, it is important to note that Prince Andrew has relinquished the use of these titles and honours. They effectively remain extant but inactive. Joining us now is GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker to talk us through what he thinks is the most significant point about today. Cameron, please walk us through it.
Gosh, well, Matt, this is certainly a significant statement from Prince Andrew, which was released at 7 o'clock this evening. Prince Andrew says, in discussion with the King and my immediate and wider family, we have concluded the continued association about me distracts from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I have decided, as I always have, to put my duty to my family and country country first. I stand by my decision 5 years ago to stand back from public life. With His Majesty's agreement, we feel I must now go a step further. I will therefore no longer use my title or the honours which have been conferred upon me. As I have said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me, and I think perhaps this was going to be the end solution, Matt, because as you said, there has been so many scandals associated with Prince Andrew over the last couple of weeks. In particular, on Tuesday, we have Virginia Giuffre, the lady who accused Prince Andrew of having sex with her on 3 separate occasions when she was 17 years old, an allegation that Prince Andrew has always denied. But of course, there was going to be some pretty uncomfortable details within that memoir. And of course, the Chinese spy scandal, 2 separate scandals, of course, Yang Tengbo, which was last year, and then this year, a senior Chinese Communist Party official, Prince Andrew, it's been revealed, has met on a number of occasions, who's said to be at the centre of this particular the most recent Chinese spy scandal. So what we know is that the decision has been taken in recognition of the fact that the prince's personal issues, i.e. all of these allegations, continue to be an unwelcome distraction from the work of the wider royal family. I understand that the prince took this decision in close consultation with the King. I'm told that His Majesty is glad of this outcome and that the Prince of Wales, Prince William, was consulted. And there has been a lot of speculation as to the amount of consultation that Prince William was a part of. If you remember, during the Duchess of Kent's funeral outside Westminster Cathedral a couple of weeks ago, Prince Andrew was very clearly in front of the cameras trying to strike up a conversation with the heir to the throne, and Prince William completely blanked him in front of the cameras, did not want to speak to him whatsoever. In terms of being a Knight of a Garter, well, he's no longer being that either. Of course, he no longer took part in the procession anyway, following the disastrous Newsnight interview, but I don't think he's going to be taking part in the private proceedings either inside Windsor Castle. In terms of Royal Lodge, Matt, the big mansion that he lives on in Windsor Castle Estates, he will still continue to be allowed to live there because it's a private lease agreement he's got with the Crown Estate, which lasts until the 2070s, long after his lifetime, as long as he can pay the rent and indeed the upkeep of Royal Lodge. I'm also told that Sarah Ferguson, his ex-wife, she is going to be no longer using her Duchess of York title as well, but he is going to be remaining a prince because it was Queen Elizabeth II, of course, who gave birth to Prince Andrew, so Prince Andrew is her son. The title of prince, in accordance with the letters patents issued in 1917 by George V, which were updated by Elizabeth II in 2012, meaning there's no legal mechanism at the moment to get rid of Prince Andrew as a prince. And in terms of the legal entitlement of being known as the Duke of York, well, that also requires an Act of Parliament, which isn't being announced this evening. What is being announced is that Prince Andrew has agreed to stop using the Duke of York title, but legally it's still there, but it is inactive.
OK, well, thank you, Cameron, for those insights. Joining us now down the line is royal author and biographer Tom Bauer. Tom, thank you for joining us this evening on what is another seismic day for the royal family. Let me ask you the same question I've just asked Cameron. What do you think is most significant about today's events?
Well, I think what's most significant is that it's not the end of the saga. I think that the email that was leaked last weekend from Andrew to Epstein, clearly there would have been a reply from Epstein and a reply from Andrew to Epstein. So there's a whole chain of emails which I think has still got to come out. And I think the palace has suddenly realized that they're actually sitting on another bombshell, and it is going to keep on exploding. And I don't think for a moment that Andrew's decision today, of course it wasn't, it was forced on him, is the end of the saga. I think it's going to get worse and worse.
Tom, we also have a memoir that's coming out, I think, on Tuesday, as we just heard from Cameron Walker there, the memoir from the now deceased young woman who claims that obviously she was a victim of sexual abuse on the Epstein Island. Is that likely to deliver more bombshell moments for both the prince and the royal family? Is this about timing, getting ahead of that the publication of that memoir?
Well, of course it is as well, yes. But I think the most important issue is this, that when Prince Andrew gave the interview to Newsnight, now nearly 6 years ago, he went into that interview knowing, calculating that he was going to lie. He clearly lied about his relationship with Epstein because he said he hadn't contacted him after that walk in the park. And all his denials about the affair with Virginia Giuffre are equally now suspect. Can one believe anything he said? And that is his problem, that he has got no credibility at all now because of the lie about his relationship with Epstein. And therefore, I think that the revelations which might come in the book, after all, she's said everything. I don't think all it does is just sugar the coating. I mean, there's nothing more which really could be said more, because the photograph is undoubtedly genuine. Her complaint, I believe, despite his denials, was genuine. And his friendship with Epstein was clearly profound. As it was with Sarah Ferguson too. So you're dealing with a man.
If I can just quickly ask, where does this leave Prince Andrew and now Sarah Ferguson in terms of public life? Because presumably we're not going to see that much of them in the years ahead. They'll be keeping an extremely low profile, even though they'll continue to live in the same property. But just paint us a picture if you can. I mean, how are they going to function? How are they going to make money? Do they need to make money? What does the rest of their lives really look like?
Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, that of course it's not the end of the saga or the scandal, because both of them have an absolute penchant. They love appearing in the spotlight, and they can't resist appearing in public. So although they might disappear for a few days, few weeks, even a couple of months, they are going to reappear. And I think this is where the king has a major problem, as does the Prince of Wales. What do they do with this terrible couple? And the problem is that they can't really stay in Britain. They really need to be moved to some sort of governorship. Perhaps there's a governorship of the Cayman Islands or something which they can go to. But it is a problem which is not going to go away because they resist anonymity. And that is the problem. And more is going to come out. So this is, in my view, going to amount in the end to a constitutional crisis, because the king, who's not well, hasn't only got the problem of Prince Andrew, but also, of course, of Harry and his desire to return to Britain. And again, Prince William's reluctance, but putting it mildly, to have his brother back in Britain. So the royal family is in a really serious situation tonight.
Well, Tom Bauer, thank you for your thoughts. I'm just going to bring in tonight's panel, acting deputy comment editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and political commentator Kai Wilshaw. Poppy, feels like it's inevitable, but also, as Tom was saying there, it also feels like it's not quite the end of the story.
Yeah, I have to say I completely agree. The idea that Sarah Ferguson, just on her own, is going to, live a kind of dignified private life is somewhat hard to believe. I'm not sure how many memoirs she has exactly, but I know it's more than one, which I think is slightly suspect, unless, you're the subject of a Robert Caro book. So there you go. I think, unfortunately, as your guest has just said, this is going to really badly affect the king. And it's a shame that the whole family should be brought into disrepute for the actions of Prince Andrew.
Kai Wilshaw.
I agree. I do think it begs the question, and of course King Charles has made moves towards this, but what does the royal family and the monarchy more broadly look like in the future? We know Prince William seeks to sort of focus on some core issues rather than as much ribbon cutting and that kind of stuff. Will that fly with the British public at a time when perhaps they're at a low ebb, the family's perception is at a low ebb, given that actually all the public here is crisis after crisis, and actually none of the good stuff that I think the royal family are doing at the minute?
Well, we know that the king wants to have a more slimmed-down monarchy, so perhaps this is actually quite consistent with that broader plan. We can try and keep some people on the side, and we can move forward with perhaps just a core royal family.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's partly the intention, but you can't shy away from the fact that part of the working royals or not, people connected to the royal family are always going to get attention. Prince Andrew will continue to get attention now, whether or not he has the title or whatever legalese they use. So the question really is, don't you want to use that broad pool of people who are fairly sanitised to do the good work and to cut the ribbons, while maybe Prince William and the King can focus on their core missions, as I think they both do have?
Yeah, Poppy Coburn, what do you think the future of the royal family actually looks like? I mean, it seems unlikely to me that Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson will sort of ride off into the night and we'll never hear from them at all. I think there'll be financial pressures, there'll be, you know, reputational issues. They'll probably still feel like perhaps they can turn some of that around. But what does the future hold on that front?
I think we could even take a step back and talk, like, I think this is an existential threat for the royal family. You know, there was some polling that came out a couple of weeks ago that was showing the level of support in Britain for the royal family is an all-time low. You know, and this is even without the big scandals of the 1990s with Princess Diana. So I'm not really sure they've been in a situation that's been so dire for them. And this is why this series of really embarrassing scandals, not just connected to what we already know about Epstein, but also getting involved in national politics with this Chinese spy story. You know, and then, of course, you have Harry and Meghan, who are constantly in the headlines because they're constantly trying to sell new products to people that are completely useless. I really don't know if we're even going to have a royal family in 10 years.
Well, Kai, in a way, it used to be said that the royal family provides continuity for the nation, a symbol of continuity. And in a way, the constitutional crisis that Poppy alludes to perhaps reflects the broader crisis facing the UK. I mean, the fact that we are increasingly a divided, declining nation is reflected in the status of our royal family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really interesting here as well is that just like reform on the right, on the left you have an insurgent populist force in the Green Party.
We'll be talking about them later on. Yeah.
But I suspect they will want to make big profiles out of those they think are taking advantage of Brits, and that might include the royal family.
Well, coming up next on tonight's show...
So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended.
Well, we'll be crossing live in a moment to our very own Bev Turner in Washington, D.C. for the latest on President Trump's crunch talks with Ukraine's President Zelensky. Could a resolution to the 3-year conflict with Russia be closer than ever before? Bev will also reveal the reaction stateside to the bombshell news that Prince Andrew has given up his royal titles. This is Friday Night with Matt Goodwin on GB News. See you in 1 minute.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
In most cases, adoption is really great. We've got an amazing adoption system here in the UK with really fantastic charities. We've seen about 1 in 20 dogs being adopted. Lots of people during COVID went out and bought lots of dogs. We had a huge increase in the dog population. And then those people went back to work, and some of them couldn't care for their dogs anymore. So the dog charities are literally chock-a-block. They're all fully booked up with their spaces. When you go and see that dog, I think you can get a feeling yourself of, you know, how that dog is with you, that instant love and affection that you get from that dog. So use your heart. And save a dog.
And also take the advice, I think, of the people at the rescue centre. There was one that I really fancied because it was prettier than the one that they were recommending to me. And I said, oh, no, that one. And they said, no, you're a first-time owner. That dog is not for you. That dog is a very high-maintenance dog, needs a very, very experienced owner. And they gave me the right one.
It's just coming up to the Christmas period where people make emotional decisions about pets for a family.
And a dog is not just for Christmas, it's for life. And it's a lifelong commitment. You know, dogs are with us, and some of them are needy and some of them are more independent. If you give your dogs lots of love, you exercise them well, you feed them well, you're able to leave them for, you know, short periods of time. But if you are at work for 8-10 hours a day, it's just too long to leave a dog for. So, you know, really keep that in mind, that, you know, is that dog going to work for you in your life? Saying that, you know, dogs bring you so much. They're going to make you live longer. They're going to, you know, they're so good for you sort of health-wise. They're going to take you out for a walk every day. They're going to take you out in nature.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Friday Night with Matt Goodwin on GB News. Now, the big news tonight that Prince Andrew will give up all of his titles. But what is the reaction from across the pond to this groundbreaking news? Let's cross to Washington, D.C. and speak with GB News' presenter, Bev Turner. Bev? How are you doing?
Hi, Matt. Yeah, very good. To be fair, there's a bigger story in town today, which is Zelensky meeting Trump at the White House. But of course, royal stories always do very well over in America. I don't think the average American would particularly understand what it means to lose your title when you still perhaps live in the house, etc. But obviously, Epstein is a big story here because it swirls around so many prominent people in the public eye, of course, including the president himself. So I've just hot-footed it here from the White House, but I can tell you that people weren't talking about Prince Andrew. They were talking about Zelensky and President Trump and his attempts to achieve peace in Ukraine.
President Trump's been holding talks with Ukraine's President Zelensky today, and in his latest attempts to resolve the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which comes just days after President Trump held talks with President Putin, with the two due to meet in person in Hungary in the very near future. So what is the gossip regarding the likelihood of some new peace agreement in Washington, D.C.? What are people saying? Because after Alaska, that didn't seem to go particularly well, but perhaps with the Middle East peace deal now gaining a lot of attention, perhaps President Trump feels as though momentum is now behind him.
Well, when the journalists came out of the briefing room, came into the briefing room from the press conference with Trump and Zelensky, they were kind of laughing about the end bit, because right at the end, all the journalists were saying the last bit was the best, because Trump dropped the F-bomb. The last few moments of that press conference, he said, you don't want to mess with America. Now, he was talking about that in relation to the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. Now, why is that relevant? Because so much of this press conference, if you watch it thinking about the fact that Trump was also knowing that Putin was going to be watching this press conference, that was what struck me. And so he was dancing a bit of a kind of merry dance for the negotiation that will be to come. So the statement, don't mess with America, even though it was directed at the Venezuelan president, was no doubt a message actually to Putin. Trump was very confident about the fact that he thinks he can bring this conflict to a peaceful resolution. He talked about the fact that he was on the phone yesterday to Putin for 2.5 hours. He said that the two men have tremendously bad blood between them. And Donald Trump sees everything through, I'm realising, through the guise of relationships, actually. In whatever situation it is, he boils it down to the relationship between the two people. And he kept talking repeatedly. He said, they hate each other. I can't get them to get along. He said, there'll be 3 people in this discussion, a president, and a president. And he said, and I am the one in the middle that has to broker the deal. So I think he looked like he's lost patience very much with Putin. He really wants to get this off his desk, was the sense in the room. Zelensky was talking about wanting the security guarantee from America. He obviously said the word NATO again, which is clearly a trigger for Putin. Zelensky saying NATO would be best, but in the absence of that, I want a security guarantee from America. So it wasn't just about the Tomahawk missiles, which is clearly one of the suggestions. That's what Zelensky was here to ask for. Trump kept making the threat to Putin that America mustn't be messed with, but similarly was also making it clear that he has Zelensky in his office. he made a phone call to Putin. The timing of that, obviously in terms of negotiations, suggests that he let Putin go first, in a way. He's obviously trying to communicate with him. And yet had Zelensky there in the office, and he will be going over to Budapest to talk to Putin face to face. But the general mood was that he feels confident that he can bring this to an end, riding high on the momentum of the Middle East.
OK, all right, thank you, Bev Turner. Let's get the views of tonight's panel, please. Acting Deputy Comment Editor of The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and political commentator Kai Wilshaw. Poppy, President Trump now thinking of himself as the peacemaker president. Looks like he is not so optimistic he can get a deal between Russia and Ukraine. But where do we go next with that?
I think a lot of the discussion around Trump as the peacemaker is focused unduly on this Nobel Peace Prize angle, right? Donald Trump is not that shallow. He's not just doing things because he wants a shiny medal. There have been reports that have been coming out of the White House that have suggested that they've taken a harder line on Russia and a more sympathetic angle towards Ukraine. Certainly, at least since last year, with that awful, disastrous Oval Office meeting where he actually berated Zelensky in front of the cameras. So the relationship there between him and Ukraine is much stronger. And in contrast, whereas the administration at the beginning was quite sympathetic, I think, to Russia, in a way the Biden administration certainly wasn't, their dealings with them have been so hostile that has completely flipped. So things have changed. This is a meaningful moment.
Well, just before we go to Kai Wilshaw, I want to show you this clip of President Trump talking about this potential peace deal.
Talking about what took place yesterday with my phone call with President Putin. And I think that things are coming along pretty well. And we'd like to see if we could finish it, end it. We want it ended. So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended. So,
well, Kai Wilshaw, what does it take to get this thing ended, as President Trump has just said? I mean, you can clearly see he fancies getting this peace deal as cementing his legacy, perhaps cementing the Nobel Peace Prize, but more fundamentally, really being a president that will have done a remarkable amount of peace building. What does he need to do to get it to the end? Also, by the way, I think it's highly significant that they're meeting in Budapest. It looks like actually Hungary's emerged as quite a power player between the two. Perhaps embarrassing for the European Union in many ways that actually Viktor Orban and Hungary are playing such a pivotal role. But what do you think needs to happen for this thing to get over the line?
I think... So Putin's played this very coyly, and I think to his detriment, because actually what Trump saw in Netanyahu was somebody who eventually could be pressured, and Putin, they tried to pressure Putin, didn't get there. And now actually the cementing a better relationship with Zelensky, I think, gives the European Union an opportunity to apply some of the maximum pressure opportunities it has, and hopefully this will... I mean, I think it needs to be both the US and the EU, actually, forcing their hand. There's things that the EU has resisted doing still that it could do. Hopefully some heavier language from Donald Trump, which we have seen, will force them to do that. And a few months ago, this was completely off the cards, right? To think that Zelensky was being explicitly cut out of the negotiations. You know, the European Union is having to push to say, well, they should have a seat at the table. Well, now, clearly, he's holding all the cards.
Poppy Coburn, there is something about Europe's impotence in all of this, the famous scenes of European leaders at President Trump's desk. But Hungary seems to have emerged actually as quite an important power player here.
I think the European angle is very important, right? Because everyone talks about negotiations over this war as if it's Russia, Ukraine and America, which is kind of acting as the main mediator. Now, yes, look, Europe has been influential in actually getting some of those weapons over when the Trump administration pulled back. But as you say, when it comes to actual negotiations and what's considered to be somewhat neutral territory, or at least not extremely hostile territory for the Russians, I think Hungary has played a really important role in actually coming to the end stage of the war, which is not just going to be about virtue signalling, it's going to be kind of setting out those lines of negotiation. OK, well, coming up next, accusations of anti-Semitism erupt once again in this country as Israeli football fans are banned from attending a fixture against Aston Villa in our second city. So I want to ask you a question. Does Britain now have no-go zones for the Jewish community? This is Friday Night with Matt Goodwin, only on GB News. See you in 1 minute.
dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Some heavy showers across Croatia on Friday, but they should be clearing in time for the weekend. Meanwhile, there'll be some heavy rain in parts of Tunisia. A few heavy showers over northern parts of mainland Greece and through Albania. Most of the Greek islands, though, dry and sunny. Looking sunnier for Corsica and Sardinia too. 1 or 2 showers possible in Mallorca and Menorca and Barcelona. And so looking fairly showery on Saturday across the Canaries. Should be turning drier here, though, through Sunday and Monday. Showers continue in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Evening. The weekend promises a big change. Still, most of us dry and cloudy tomorrow, but it should be a bit brighter than today. And then things really change through Saturday night and into Sunday as we see things turning wet and windy because of this area of low pressure moving in, finally replacing our area of high pressure. But that high is still with us at the moment. There is still a little bit of light rain here and there. Been a few showers through the day across the south coast of England and in northeast Scotland. Much of northern Scotland, though, hanging on to clear skies, which will allow it to turn quite chilly and also perhaps a little foggy. Further south, temperatures holding up with the cloud at 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, but a chance of a pocket or two of frost in northern Scotland where we've got those clearer skies. The thickest cloud out west still producing a little bit of light rain and drizzle in the morning for maybe Northern Ireland. Still perhaps across the Northern Isles the odd light shower too, but much of northern Scotland starts the weekend chilly, perhaps foggy as well, but should see some good spells of sunshine here. Elsewhere, like it has been for much of the week, sunshine in short supply, a lot of cloud sitting around, but generally that cloud a bit higher than today, so it won't be quite so gloomy. And a better chance of seeing some more breaks in the cloud across southwest England, maybe East Anglia in the southeast, North Wales, northwest England. So chance of seeing some sunny spells here and there, but I think the lion's share of the sunshine will be across northern Scotland. Elsewhere, again, the odd light shower, but most places just staying dry and fairly drab. A little bit warmer than today, 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees, perhaps 17 if we see some sunshine. But look at this, all changed. The rain moves in from the west during Saturday night and then lingers for much of Sunday. The rain could be pretty heavy over eastern parts of Northern Ireland. Met Office yellow warning in place here. Heavy bursts likely elsewhere too, but slowly moving through. So parts of the west do turn a bit brighter come Sunday afternoon. But for many, Sunday is a soggy affair and increasingly windy to boot.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, good evening. Welcome back to Friday Night with Matt Goodwin. Now, here are two things that happened in Britain in the space of 1 week, and which, when seen together, reflect just how rapidly I think our country is coming undone. First, Conservative MP Robert Jenrick was revealed to have described a neighbourhood in the city of Birmingham as one of the worst integrated areas I've ever been to. And he was not wrong to say this. As I pointed out months ago, there are many areas in Birmingham, our second city, where local people do not speak English, do not contribute to the economy, and openly reject an English and British identity. Yet Jenrick's comments still sparked a total meltdown among a pro-diversity ruling class that is much more interested in virtue signalling than engaging with the actual evidence. Then yesterday, only a week later, police in Birmingham, supported by local independent Muslim MPs, decided to ban travelling Jewish football fans from visiting Birmingham to watch their team, Maccabi Tel Aviv FC, play Aston Villa. In other words, let me be clear, Jews are not welcome in Britain. British police are openly acknowledging that they cannot keep Jews safe. And Birmingham, our second city, has effectively become a no-go zone for Jews. On the surface, of course, the ruling class will deny all of this. The official line is that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans have previously been associated with violence and hooliganism elsewhere, notably in the Netherlands, where a football match descended afterwards into violence. But in reality, everybody who knows anything about Britain knows that this is about something else. This is about something much darker. What I think we're witnessing in our second city is yet another symbol of the ongoing rise of Muslim sectarianism in British politics, a sectarianism that is being enabled, let's be honest, by hapless two-tier policing that openly sides with one minority group over another, usually in the name of preventing community tensions. This is, after all, the same city that only recently said it was unable to take down Palestinian flags while removing English ones, and where local Muslim MPs have appeared more interested in opening a new airport in Pakistan than working to improve their local council in Birmingham. Now, a petition co-signed by Jeremy Corbyn and a local independent Muslim MP, meanwhile, made it clear that local politicians see the ban as being necessary because of what they call the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and claiming that Israeli teams cannot be separated from the wider political context. Another Muslim MP talks about stopping Zionists. What all of this represents is an ugly sectarianism that is now rapidly mainstreaming anti-Semitism in our country, openly reshaping British politics along religious lines and leaving us in the absurd position of being asked to believe that Britain, a country with a long tradition of football hooliganism, cannot keep a few Jewish football fans safe in our own second city. It is absolutely absurd. So too is the response from Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who last night said he's shocked by what he calls a wrong decision, and he's reportedly ordered 3 ministers to find a way of reversing the ban. But according to the Telegraph tonight, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood was warned that the ban was a possibility as early as last week. Labour knew this was coming. The Home Office denies this, insisting that Mahmood only found out last night. But what we're witnessing, regardless, is exactly what Keir Starmer and his two-tier Labour Party have enabled for years, an ugly, divisive sectarianism that is creating what we now see around us, Jews being treated like second-class citizens. And all while Keir Starmer and his Labour cronies deny there is even such a thing as two-tier Britain, a place where some minorities are now very clearly being favoured and prioritised by politicians and police over other minority groups. This is what happens when the cultural class in this country, the BBC class you might say, spends decades insisting that multiculturalism is a success, that diversity is our strength, all while allowing these dark sectarian forces to take root and spread like a highly aggressive cancer. Britain should be a country where Jews are free to travel anywhere and everywhere they like. Now that would be the kind of society, I think, that many of our woke columnists would have you believe we're already living in, where diversity is a success and where integration is working, where immigration has made us stronger. But we are very clearly not living in that country, are we? Thanks to the failed policies of the last 30 years, the policies of mass migration, broken borders and two-tier multiculturalism, which promotes some minorities over others, we are now having to live in a country where our second city, which also happens to be one of our most diverse, has effectively become a no-go zone for Jews. And that is a complete and utter disgrace. Well, to debate this, I now welcome political commentator Samuel Sweet, who can give us his thoughts about this ban. Samuel, my question, why are Jews being banned from Birmingham? Why is Birmingham a no-go zone for Jewish football fans?
Okay, well, firstly, Matt, I think it's important to separate the idea that Jews have been banned from Birmingham attending this game. Factually, it is the supporter group of Maccabi Tel Aviv, who have got, as you said in your intro there, they have got historic incidences where they have caused and provoked a great deal of issues, particularly in Amsterdam last year or earlier this year in Athens when there was...
Well, Turkey managed it, Samuel. Turkey hosted those fans and that was fine. So why can't we do it?
Well, we need to. The police have looked at this, and the police have made their operational decision. And I think, to be honest with you, there's a really good question to be asked about Israel's Maccabi Tel Aviv taking part in a European competition. Firstly, in the first place, but also if we look at geopolitical goings on, how quickly teams from Russia were banned from taking part in these competitions. It's a level of exceptionalism that has been once again applied. to Israel, and in this case, an Israeli football team, where now the Prime Minister is seeking to overturn an operational decision made by West Midlands Police.
Do you think many people out there, Samuel, will be asking themselves the question, how is it that the police can manage large-scale pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine demonstrations and protests in this country, but they can't seem to manage, in what also happens to be one of our most diverse cities, a small number of visiting football fans from Israel? Do you think people will be seeing the glaring hypocrisy within the police?
Well, I mean, two things in response to that is that, firstly, this decision by West Midlands Police in a YouGov poll is actually overwhelmingly supported by the British public, who have obviously taken a look and seen...
Depends what group you look at. The left people support it, the right people
are much more opposed. No, it's a YouGov poll. I don't think we can left, right or centre YouGov.
It's not a unanimous view. If you look at Labour voters, they're more supportive of the ban. If you look at Conservative and Reform voters, they're more opposed to it. The reason Keir Starmer is opposed to it, the reason Nigel Farage is opposed to it, and the reason Kemi Badenoch is opposed to it, in fact, this has unified the entire political class, is because they think what they see in Birmingham is anti-Semitism being mainstreamed by Muslim sectarian MPs who have pressured local police, some would say, into making this decision.
Well, no, what I think that actually shows is that the political classes are deeply out of touch with the British people, who, as I said in this poll, are overwhelmingly supportive of that decision. Now, if we look again at as you said there, if we look at the marches, the strain on the police there and the level of arrests that are caused are lower than they are for Glastonbury Festival and other football games that take place across the UK every single week. There's a very political decision made in the way that the Metropolitan Police disclose things, or their PR campaigns disclose things about their operations with those marches. But as I said, the facts speak for themselves, and those are the facts that less people are arrested on those marches than there are at Glastonbury, other festivals, and the football matches we experience in this country week in, week out.
Why should Birmingham, our second city, ever be given a major sporting or cultural moment ever again after this, if the police and the local authorities are saying they do not have the capacity, they do not have the resources, they do not have the ability to manage what they describe as community tensions? Birmingham, effectively, after this, as a city that seeks to host major tournaments and cultural events, is over, isn't it? I mean, it's become a joke of a city. If it cannot manage an away team visiting to watch a football game, then what on earth has Birmingham become?
Okay, but as I said, if you look at the history of Maccabi Tel Aviv, from Amsterdam last year to Athens earlier this year, there is a long history of racist chanting, of criminal damage, and attacking pedestrians. So
thank you, Samuel. There's lots of chanting and there's lots of racist slogans on all sides. I just want to bring in the panel, acting deputy comment editor at the Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and political commentator Kai Woolshaw. Poppy, what do you make of this ban?
I think it's really important when you're talking with these people to kind of move aside from the Maccabi Tel Aviv angle and point on what the thing that I think has really shamed this country, really shamed, the local MP in Birmingham here, which is that 80,000 people signed this petition to stop these football fans from coming over, which was then supported by a UConn, who is the MP, the Gaza Independent MP of the local area. Now, why have they done that? I think they've made it pretty clear that they are not just interested in protecting the police's operational independence. They're not just keen to stop, violence on the streets. They don't want them there because they're Israeli. And I think your party's statement, it was a bit of a mask-off moment, where they literally said, well, we don't think there should be any collaboration with the Zionist regime. Treated them like they were South Africa, boycott, divest, all of those slogans that they like to use. So I just wish when people have these conversations, they would come out and be honest with us. Don't try and hide behind procedure. Tell us what you really think. Tell us why you don't really want these Israelis, these Jewish fans, from coming to your city.
Kai Woolshaw.
Honestly, I think that on the left and the right, what we're seeing is a campaign to weaponise what is probably seeking to avoid another terrorist incident like the one that we just had on British Jews, trying to use that as proof of a conspiracy one way or the other, that either that these new so-called sectarian MPs are lobbying behind the scenes to the police to create no-go zones for Jews, which is your telling, or the left saying that actually it's collusion at the very top of British politics to allow Israel to continue what they consider to be genocide. I think it's actually to do with the poor state of policing in this country that means that on the balance of probabilities, they wouldn't be able to stop and prevent a terrorist attack.
Well, the debate will carry on as it always does, because coming up next in the show, we're going to have more to tell you on the big news that Prince Andrew is going to be giving up his royal titles. Don't go anywhere, you don't want to miss this. See you in 1 minute.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Friday Night with me, Matt Goodwin, on GB News, the People's Channel. Now, a little bit more on this breaking Prince Andrew story, because joining us now is royal reporter Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, thank you for joining us tonight. What do you think is most significant about today's events?
Well, it's massively significant. I think it's the most significant thing to ever happen to a duke in the royal family in 100 years. The last time something like this happened was Prince Charles Edward. He was one of Queen Victoria's grandsons. He lost his title as Duke of Albany for fighting on the German side during the World War I. So this is a massive, significant moment in British royal history. What's interesting is Prince Andrew has made this decision, but the pressure that has been heaped on him has been enormous in what has been a very, very, very difficult few weeks for him with the latest allegations that have surrounded him.
Sarah, just briefly, if you may, are we going to see Prince Andrew again in any significant capacity?
No. Now, he does still stay in the line of succession. He will remain, obviously, a Prince Andrew, and he does still remain a Councillor of State, which, say, something was to happen to the King, theoretically, he'd be able to still step up and act. But the chances of that happening, Matt, is highly, highly unlikely. So this is it now. You will not
thank you, Sarah Louise Robertson. Sorry it's so brief. We've just got to turn to Patrick Christis to tell us what is coming up on tonight's show. Patrick.
Studio audience, thank you very, very much, everybody. Well, a heck of a lot to go at. It's curtains for Prince Andrew, isn't it? I tell you what, I bet he's sweating now, isn't he? Bet he's sweating now. Anyone getting a Pizza Express order in? Anyone? Yes, OK. There we go. So we're talking a lot about that. What does it mean for the royal family? But also, crucially, the question on everyone's lips is what's still to come out, because that appears to be the thing that might be ultimately the one that did for him in this instance. But loads of other stuff on as well. We've got this Islamification of British politics, which we're going to be talking about a heck of a lot tonight in light of what's been going on in Birmingham. I've got some clips for you from a mosque where one of the MPs in that area attends. Not particularly nice stuff. So we'll be talking about all of that. And apparently Labour might be cancelling the elections because they're too afraid of reform. There's a word for a country that cancels an election, isn't it? A dictatorship. All right. Well done, guys. Thank you.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The weather is on the change, but not right now. Another largely dry and cloudy day today. A bit brighter tomorrow, and then it turns wet and windier for Sunday, all thanks to this area of low pressure, which is finally bumping away this area of high pressure. But it hasn't done it yet. The high is keeping things cloudy and dry for most today. There are a few showers along the south coast of England, so a little bit wet here. A few light showers across northeast Scotland too. And there are also a few breaks in the cloud. Parts of western Scotland seeing a bit of sunshine. North Wales, southwest England could also do well for sunny spells this afternoon. With a bit of sunshine, could get to 16 or 17. Where it stays fairly glum across much of central and eastern England, 12 or 13 at best. But as I say, the winds are fairly light, so it feels pretty pleasant in the sunny spells across western Scotland. Still the odd shower across Aberdeenshire and maybe into Orkney and Caithness at times too through the day. But elsewhere, it's looking largely dry across northern Britain. A lot of cloud for Northern Ireland, Northern England too, but again to the west of the Pennines may see some sunny spells, some breaks in the cloud across North Wales. And as I mentioned, southwest England should do okay for sunny spells as well. Bit of a breeze picking up here as we go through the afternoon and into the evening period. That breeze will strengthen generally in western areas overnight, where we've got clearer skies and lighter winds across parts of northeast England and eastern Scotland. There could well be some mist and fog patches that form through the night as well, as temperatures dip down into single figures. Where it stays cloudy, though, most places will stay in double digits. As the breeze gets a bit livelier tomorrow, that should lift the cloud a little bit more. So a brighter day. Morning mist and fog may take a while to clear. Still a lot of cloud, but most places dry, a little bit brighter. But notice the wind's picking up in the west and there is some rain. That rain will spread its way across all areas during Saturday night and Sunday. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only